Hey, what's up you guys, the Curious Owl here, and today I am back with my August D20 TBR. So, to start off the bat, July was a really good month for me, reading-wise. I actually ended up being able to read all 6 of the D20 books I had set out for July. So, round of applause for that, because that means that this month I get to take off a prompt, getting me back to the original 5 prompts I had set out for every month. So that's super exciting. I am really happy with how things have gone. I think I've gotten pretty much back into the swing of reading. Also, in new news, I also got another D20 die. So this one is purple with gold writing on it. It's super pretty. I don't remember exactly where I got this. I think it was at a local bookstore. So my local used bookstore actually was selling a lot of D&D stuff because they're trying to reach out to a lot of the community, and a lot of the community really likes D&D. So they actually had somebody make these little bottles where they look like potions, and it's just a bottle filled with various dice for Dungeons and Dragons, like your D20, D8, D4, stuff like that. But what's really cool is it comes with this little disc thing, and if you put it under, there's a little button on the bottom, and it lights up to make it look like a really cool, like, glowing potion. It is so awesome. I thought this was so cool, and it was like 15 bucks. And supporting my local used bookstore, so I thought it was super cool. But what we are going to be using from here on out is this D20, the gold writing one, because that set I'm gonna use for when I actually can do some campaigns and stuff, hopefully with some friends. So, with that being said, let us get to the prompts for this month. So let's roll the footage for the spins for August. Okay, so we are going to pick the 5 prompts for the D20 TBR for this round. Let's start off with the first prompt. That is really loud, I apologize. And we get, oh, of course, it's a big book. Okay. Well, that actually kind of helps because I can use one of my Stephen King prompts for that one. Let's go for prompt number 2. And that is a new release within the last 6 months. All right, so we're going to do spin number 3 now, which is going to end up being a adult book. Okay, so I've got quite a few I can use for that. All right, spin number 4. We have a hyped release. Okay, so that one can be basically anything. Doesn't matter the age range. It can be pretty much anything that I'm just really excited for. It can be something older. It can be something that's newer. It's just whatever I find that I'm really excited about. And I have quite a few of those currently, so we'll get to that. Okay, and then we're going to do the final spin for this month, which is going to be a new author to me. Okay, so again, this is not necessarily something that's going to have to be brand spanking new. It can be a debut author that just came out with something. This also can relate to somebody that I may have had their books for a while and just haven't read anything by them, and it doesn't matter if the books are newer or older. So I have a plethora to choose from when it comes to this. So let's get over to the books that I do pick for all of these prompts. Okay, so before we get into the books I ended up picking for each of the prompts that I had for August, I'm going to go quickly over what I'm currently reading that I'm going to be basically taking through the last part of July, which today is currently July 27th, and it's basically going to take me the rest of the month, probably going into August, and that is Wizard in Glass, the 4th book in the Dark Tower series. At this point where I'm at, I'm just over 100 pages in. This video is going to go out before my wrap-up will for July, so if this is in that means I was able to finish it before the month was up. Otherwise, this is going to end up being on my August TBR, kind of, because I'm just going to try to be able to finish it if I haven't finished it by the end of July. Okay, so the first prompt we had for August was big book. Now this basically is anything that is 500 pages or more. So for this one, I decided to kind of get another Stephen King read in here. And that's the 5th book, which is Wolves of the Kala, which is over 700 pages. Not nearly as big as Wizard in Glasses. Wizard in Glasses is like almost 900 pages, but another chunky book, and is part of my Stephen King reading series, which if you don't know anything about that, I will leave the playlist down in the description. But basically, it's a reading series where I've been reading Stephen King's books chronologically as they've been published, with also then doing series back to back to back. So if there are books that are part of a duology, trilogy, series, I read the entirety of that series before moving on to the next book that was chronologically published, because I'm looking at the expansion of the story, the plot stuff, all that kind of stuff. So this will be helping me with getting that set up, which is pretty exciting. The book I have pitted against this, though, as one I'm not necessarily as excited to read because I have already read this, but I'm actually going to be rereading it because I don't remember very well what it was about, but I would like to read it and then read the rest of the series that is involved in this, is going to be The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan, the first book in the Wheel of Time series. Now, I listened to the audiobook of this, I want to say almost a year ago, and I remember really liking it, but I don't remember much of it because the audiobook for me was a little hit or miss in terms of like really understanding the story. So I decided to instead then pick up the paperback copies of this series because I've heard so many good things about it from people who are big fantasy lovers. There's some issues with it obviously because it's much older, but I thought that maybe giving the physical copy a try would be better since the audiobook didn't gel with me as well as I would have liked to. But that does mean I have to start a whole new series, and I'm not sure if I really want to do that, but if this comes up, you know, I will at least make a start on it. So these are the two big ones I have picked out for August, so let's see which one of these wins. Okay, so I'm going to apologize right now if you guys hear music in the background at all. The walls in my parents' home are very thin, and my mom is currently jamming out to some music while she's making dinner. So, but to start off, let's do the big book prompt. So we have, like I've said, Wolves of the Kala by Stephen King, the 5th book in the Dark Tower series, versus The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan, the 1st book in the Wheel of Time. So let's see how the D20 is going to have me fare in these rounds. Start off nice, I guess. And we land on a 14. Okay, so if you've not been paying attention to this series at all, anything above a 10 is going to be the book that I am more excited for or meets the prompt. Anything a 10 or lower is going to be the one that is either not fitting the prompt or I'm least excited about. For this one, like I said, we had a 14, so that means I'm going to be going with Wolves of the Kala by Stephen King for my big book prompt, which is nice since this is particularly for my Stephen King reading series. The next prompt is a book that was released within the last 6 months. Now, one of the books that is in this set is one I wanted to read in June because it had been released in May, but I didn't get a chance to get to it and was actually one of the reasons why I had to take a punishment in July, and that is The Ones We're Meant to Find by Joan Hay. This is Joan Hay's second book, and I loved Descendant of the Crane. It was one of my most favorite books of, I want to say it was 2019, maybe 2018, but I loved it so much, and I've heard really good things about this one in terms of the relationship between the sisters and the dual perspective. I've heard a lot of really good things about this in general, and as also as kind of it being slightly dystopian. And then the second book is going to be The Maidens by Alex something. I don't even know how to pronounce that last name, but this one was actually recommended to me by a friend of mine, my friend Megan, because she read The Silent Patient, which was this author's first book, and really liked it, and then this book just came out, I want to say in June or July, and I've heard kind of mixed things on it. She really liked it and gave it a 5-star, but even with that 5-star had said that there were some things in terms of the overall plot twist at the end that she wasn't really a fan of, but not to the point where she completely disliked the book, and that this is technically a prequel to The Silent Patient because one particular character that comes up in The Silent Patient as the main character is mentioned and shown in this one. So she told me that it would be a really cool thing for me to start this and then read The Silent Patient. Both are books I've actually been kind of interested in. Obviously, The Ones We're Meant to Find is one I am more interested in, so I think that that's the one that's kind of the favorite, but let's see which of these new releases ends up being the one I go with this month. Okay, so this next round is going to be for a book that was released within the last 6 months. So we have The Ones We're Meant to Find by Joan Hay as the one I am more excited to read versus The Maidens, and I am unsure whether I want to read one more than the other. I mean, I do want to read The Ones We're Meant to Find more, but maybe the D20 will be nice to me. Let's see. And we land on a 17. Oh my gosh. Okay, so yes, that means I get to read The Ones We're Meant to Find, and I have the Kindle version of this, and also I have the audiobook on Scribd, so this should be a nice,
easy reading experience for this one.
So the next prompt is an adult book. Now, I went with an adult book and then a young adult book because this is kind of like the idea is that you either pick books that are going to be conflicting, one that doesn't fit the prompt and one that does, or just one book you really are excited about that fits this prompt and maybe one you're not as excited about but still fits the prompt. So the adult book I picked is The Wind Through the Keyhole by Stephen King, which is book 4.5 in the Dark Tower. Now, I had planned to read this for July, but I just hadn't got to it, and it's going to take me a while to get through Wizard and Glass. But this is the book that comes after Wizard and Glass and before Wolves of the Kala, which I mentioned earlier. It's supposed to be kind of a prequel to the Dark Tower. It goes a lot into Roland's backstory and learning about some of the things that happened before the events of The Gunslinger, which is the first book. So, very excited to read this, and it's also another book on my Stephen King reading series. The one that is up against it is a book for another series that I am doing, which is my reread series of the Kissed by an Angel series by Elizabeth Chandler. And the next book that I have to read for that is Everlasting, which is the second book in the second trilogy that's involved in this story. It's about a girl who loses her boyfriend in a car accident, and in the first trilogy that was published in the 1990s, you watch as he ends up being her guardian angel and tries to protect her because they realize that his death was not accidental and somebody is actually targeting Ivy, the main character. So you kind of go to see how this whole thing pans out, and then the end of that trilogy ends on a really good note, but then 20 years later they decide to pick up the story again from a year after all of that had happened, and this is the second book in that storyline. Between these two, let's see what ends up being the winner.
Okay, so now for the adult book, we have The Wind Through the Keyhole by Stephen King, book 4.5 in the Dark Tower series, versus Everlasting by Elizabeth Chandler. I almost said Cassandra Clare. I don't know why that was coming through my mind. But this is the sequel to Evercross, the technically fifth book in the Kissed by an Angel series and part of a reread series I am doing of the Kissed by an Angel series. So, D20, what are you going to do for me in this round? Let's see. Oh my god, is that a nat 20? That's a nat 20, you guys. Oh my god, this is going so well. So, we're going to do The Wind Through the Keyhole as my adult book, which is worked out very well for me. Not so much for that series, but that's okay.
Next prompt is a hyped release. Now for this one, I picked one that actually was a very exciting release when I had got it, and I still hadn't really picked it up as of yet. And the other book is another part of the reread series I'm doing because it's not something that like is in any way a hyped release for me. It's been out for a while, it's a reread, and it's part of a reread series, so it kind of just I just needed to throw it somewhere in here if I could. But the hyped release I have is Shine Your Icy Crown by Amanda Lovelace. So this is actually the second collection in a series of collections that are called the You Are Your Own Fairy Tale series. The first one being Break Your Glass Slippers, which I read and I really loved. It basically had taken the idea of the character Cinderella and created poetry surrounding around it. Now, not sure what this one is gonna be, if it's gonna be after another very particular Disney princess, or if it's going to kind of be more general, but everything that Amanda Lovelace has written, I have loved. I have never rated anything that I've read by her lower than a 4-star. So then the book that is not necessarily a hyped release, but is one I need to read, is the third book in that second trilogy with the Kissed by an Angel series called Ever After. This is the concluding final book in the entirety of this 6-book series that is divided into 2 trilogies. Now, this I'm a little concerned about because I have a distinct feeling that this is not going to go very well in terms of the overall ending of the entirety of the story, because if I remember correctly, I didn't like it the first time I read it. So we're going to see whether or not that lives up to that. But these are the 2 books for the hyped release prompt, and let's see which of these ends up winning.
Okay, so for this one, I did make a promise to a friend that if the Maidens did not win its particular round, I would try to get it in at least one other area for my friend Megan because she really wants me to read it. So instead of putting Ever After up against Shine Your Icy Crown by Amanda Lovelace for the hyped release prompt, I am going to put the Maidens up against it and see if it somehow can make this, because it is a hyped release for me and she really wants me to read it, so I'm going to try to give it at least one more chance. And we have, I think that's a 6. So Megan, if you're watching this, The Maidens is now on my list, so there you go. I'll have to pick the book up from you at some point, but I guess you won.
And then finally, the last prompt we have is a new author to me. Now, for this one, I was talking to my friend Megan as I was coming up with this, and I decided to actually go with two different manga series because I've been collecting a lot of manga in the last couple of months, and I've been kind of just chomping at the bit for a reason to start at least one of these series. So I picked two that I was kind of excited to start. The first one being Bleach by Tj Kubo. Again, I've never read this series. This would be a new author to me, and it's a format I am not as familiar with. It's not that I haven't read manga before, it's just one that is very rare for me to pick up, but I have been chomping at the bit to start some because people have been talking so much about like this particular anime, for instance, and I've been wanting to watch the shows, but I've been wanting to read the manga first before I do because I feel like that's just going to give me a better basis as to what's going on. And I have the first 9 volumes of Bleach, so I feel like I should get started on it. So this is kind of the one I feel like I would like to start the most because I've heard a lot of people talk about how it's one of their favorites. And the other one that I'm also excited for, but I don't hear about nearly as much, is Fruits Basket. The only reason I really know anything about Fruits Basket by Natsuki Takaya is because I've heard a couple people who are manga fanatics talk about it, and it's very cute. It's supposed to be very fun. This is one of their more favorite ways to start getting into manga at the very least. So let's see which of these two manga series I start off with in the rolls.
And finally, we have the new author to me prompt. So we have two manga up. We have Bleach up against Fruits Basket, volumes 1 of both. Not sure which one I would rather read, honestly. So let's let the D20 decide our fate, I guess. We have... Is that an 11 or 17? I think that's a 17 again. Yeah, it's a 17. Okay, so that means we're going to read Bleach, volume 1, which kind of excited for. This looks like it's going to be really fun, and I've heard a lot of people say it's one of their favorites.
Okay, so the D20 has decided, and here are the books I'm going to be reading for this month. So for Big Book, I'm going to be ending up reading Wolves of the Kala by Stephen King, the 5th book in the Dark Tower series. Very happy to get this one on there since it is part of my reading series, and I always like to try to at least get one of the books in my reading series that I'm doing on this TBR, and I feel very fortunate that I was able to get at least 2 on there, so it's a good start. Next, for a new release in the last 6 months, we have The Ones We're Meant to Find by Joan. Very excited to read this one. This one has been a long time coming, so I'm very excited to finally get to this and see what everyone's biggest excitement has been with this because I've heard nothing but good things about it. Next, for adult book, we have The Wind Through the Keyhole by Stephen King, the 4.5 book in the Dark Tower series. So before I end up reading Wolves of the Kala, I will be reading this one. But yes, very happy that I got 2 of my Stephen King reading series books on this TBR. Again, I just somehow seem to have very good luck with being able to get these ones on here the last couple of months. But I shouldn't say that too loud because the D20 may hear me. Next, we have a hyped release, which for this one I'm going to go with The Maidens, like I said, because my friend Megan was really wanting me to make sure I could get my hands on this if at all possible, so she let the D20 decide for me, and the D20 said, you know, we're not going to pick it for the prompt it was originally picked for, but we'll pick it for a different prompt instead that still fits it. So I will have to go pick this book up from her fairly soon, but I see her all the time, so there's no reason as to why I can't get it for August by any means. And the last prompt, which is a new author to me, I ended up going with Bleach, which I'm very excited for. Not certain if I'm going to read just the first volume or if I'm going to actually power through all the 9 that I have currently. I'm undecided, but I guess that's a decision I will come to once I get through this, but I feel like this is going to be one of the last books I read in the month of August because it's just very quick to move through, because I do have the Dark Tower book, and I also still have my Kissed by an Angel books that I need to read, so this will probably be like one of the last ones since I could probably crank this out in like an hour. Those are all the books that are on the D20 TBR, so now let's go into the other books I have for August. Like I said, I have my Kissed by an Angel books that I have for my reread series, which are Everlasting and Ever After. These are going to be super quick to fly through because these books are less than 300 pages each. They're very fast to read because they're just very simple. So those are all of the books, including The Ones We're Meant to Find and The Maidens, on this month's TBR. So we have 5 books and then The Ones We're Meant to Find, and The Maiden. So 7 books total for this month, which is very exciting. I don't know what the page counts are, but I'm going to leave a slide at the end of this video for that because I can't do the math right now since I don't have all of the books. But once I can calculate all the pages, I'll tell you guys how much there will be with just the D20 TBR, and then adding on both Everlasting and Ever After to that, how many pages total I will have to read in the month of August, and then what the average amount of pages I should be reading. And that is also not counting, like I said, the idea that I may read the rest of the set of Bleach that I currently have. We're just going purely based on the books I for sure have set on this TBR, and anything else I read in the month is going to kind of just be an added bonus. And I'm kind of excited to see how the month goes, because since July was so very good in terms of my reading, I have nothing but high hopes for how this next month is going to go. So let me know what you guys think of this TBR. Let me know what you guys have planned for August yourselves in terms of your TBR, if you are going to be setting one. And I'm just so excited for how this is going to go. I love that this is now my monthly thing. If you guys did enjoy this video, please do give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already and you'd like to be, I would like to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owl in our flock. And I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys!